Mr. Chair. Well, Mr. Chair, I was, first of all, I just want to say how delighted I was to hear the former Speaker for the Labour Party saying that the Labour Party now opposes all forms of animal cruelty. So I'm looking forward very greatly to hearing that the Labour Party opposes sow crates and battery hen cages, and so this will be a big step forward in our Parliament when we have members of Parliament who are going on and on about animal cruelty, but many turning a blind eye to the gravest, most serious of animal cruelty of all, which of course is keeping sows in cages and hens in cages for most of their lives. And it's interesting, the former Speaker said how this bill originated in the sort of public horror at some terrible cases involving pets. That have come to the public notice sort of recently. And that is true. There have been some terrible cases of cruelty to pets, horrific cases. However, I would argue there has been a far greater outpouring of public disquiet about the expose on Sunday of the conditions that sows and pigs are forced to live in New Zealand than these individual cases of cruelty to pets. And yet this bill exempts all forms of institutional cruelty to animals, such as the sow crate, such as the battery hen cage. So the 90 million odd hens that live their lives in cages, they will not be touched by this bill. We will all go on about how animal cruelty and fining people for animal cruelty, but none of the people who keep sows in cages where they cannot turn around, where in fact far worse things that we saw on the Sunday programme, where they live in atrocious, inhumane conditions, this will remain completely untouched by this wonderful new piece of animal welfare legislation. So I think it is extraordinary. Some commentators have said politicians only hate some forms of animal cruelty, such as cruelty to pets, individual acts of cruelty, but we're quite happy to accept institutional acts of cruelty to literally millions of animals in our midst. But it's great to hear that the Labour Party has changed its stance and is now going to be opposing the sow crates and battery hen cages, amongst other things. Actually, it was interesting. The Pork Industry Board had the effrontery to turn up one of the submitters, and they said the New Zealand pork, this is in their submission, has been shocked by the recent incidents of animal cruelty in New Zealand, and we abhor any incidents of cruelty towards animals. And on they went, with a completely straight face, talking about their horror at the cruelty to animals, apparently oblivious to the fact that most New Zealanders are equally horrified by the cruelty of pig farmers to those pig farmers, and let's be sure it's only 50% of pig farmers that keep sows in crates, in cages, all of their lives. We also had the Federated Farmers turned up, and they pointed out with horror that it was possible under this bill that some farmers might be prosecuted for farming activities. And they said this could potentially expose owners of production animals, and then they said farmers, to prosecution, this bill. What an outrage. Imagine if this bill exposed farmers to prosecution. So they said, this bill should, first of all, they said the entire new clause of reckless ill treatment should be thrown out, because the worry was that a farmer could be prosecuted for this. So that was quite extraordinary. And what they were basically saying is we should have two laws in New Zealand. We should have a double standard. So we should have one law which applies to pets, to individual animals, and we should have another law which applies to farm animals, or what they call production animals. We should allow any amount of cruelty to production animals if it makes them more efficient producers of meat. But we will abhor, we will be outraged if someone treats their pet cruelly. And this is the double standard. This was actively in the submission of the Federated Farmers. Mr Chair.